So late yesterday, David Shulkin, a VA secretary, was fired via tweet. It was, again, I've said before that it's an embarrassing way to go. So Donald Trump, of course, wrote on Twitter, "I'm pleased to announce I intend to nominate highly respected Admiral Ronnie Jackson as the new Secretary of Veterans Affairs. I am thankful for David Shulkin's service to our country and our great veterans." Okay. Now, he was fired. Apparently, this is the official word, is that there was a couple of reports showing a little bit of corruption in the VA. This report from the Inspector General found that Shulkin had used taxpayer money for a trip to Europe with his wife. Oh my God. Boy, we've got some corruption in the Trump administration. How surprising. Well, Shulkin responded to this with his own op-ed about what he believes is the real reason. Now, this op-ed was written in the New York Times, and it's titled, "Privatizing the VA Will Hurt Veterans." Well, this is interesting. That doesn't have anything to do with the IG report. Well, in it, he claims that they got rid of him because of political reasons. And I have some facts to maybe back that up. First, he writes, "I believe strongly in the mission of the Department of Veterans Affairs, and nothing about my political experience in Washington could ever change that. I also believe that maintaining a strong VA is an essential piece of the puzzle that is the United States national security system. We can only expect our sons and daughters to risk their lives and fight for our freedom if we can keep our promise to care for them when they return home broken, injured, or traumatized. There is no excuse for not holding up our end of the bargain." Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, we have not been doing very well at holding up our end of the bargain. Now, in the op-ed, he talks about how there's some intra-departmental fighting, and that was one of the reasons that he was pushed out. Apparently, there are a lot of political appointees that were put into the VA that have a slightly different direction in which they want to go. In fact, he points that out. He says, "It seems that these successes within the department have intensified ambitions of people who want to put the VA healthcare in the hands of the private sector. I believe in differences in philosophy deserve robust debate, and solutions should be determined based on the merits of the arguments." So, look, they have a difference of opinion, obviously, and he says, look, I'm open to all different opinions, as long as we do what's best for the veterans. I think what's best for the veterans is to keep the VA public and not privatize it, as that would actually hurt veterans. Now, this disagreement would happen to be the reason that Shulkin was removed. He said, "The advocates within the administration for privatizing VA health services reject this approach. They saw me, quote, as an obstacle to privatization who had to be removed. That is because I am convinced that privatization is a political issue aimed at rewarding select people and companies with profits, even if it undermines care for veterans." Understand what he's saying. These political appointees kept undercutting me and pushing for privatization. Donald Trump himself, who put in these political appointees, or allowed for these political appointees to be put into the VA, want to privatize the VA. Now, look, Donald Trump, of course, he's not a smart person, as much as he might say the opposite. So he might think, oh, that privatization, it's great. You run a business, you'll help the veterans. It'll be fantastic. And the current VA is failing, and government can't do anything right. Well, look, there's obvious problems at the VA. And we do need to fix them. And we do need to look into how to solve these problems within the framework of keeping the VA public, not handed over to private corporations. And David Shulkin apparently was standing in the way of that, and that's why he was removed. But Jeff, what about the IG report showing that he had improperly used taxpayer money? I mean, of course, Trump, that's why he was removed. I mean, It's the corruption. He's just draining the swamp. Well, look, if he was serious about draining the swamp, then he would actually go after Jared Kushner. What's going on with him right now? Now, Kushner is in the middle of his own enormous scandal. For example, he's got some ties with Saudi princes, and there are a lot of experts inside the administration that are worried that foreign governments have too much influence over Jared Kushner due to some of his business deals. Now, one of them had to do with, of course, that $500 million loan for one of his properties. So, look, that deal, of course, fell through with the Qataris, and guess what? Later on, Kushner pushed Trump to support the Saudi-led blockade of Qatar. And, of course, again, getting all these loans from Saudi princes, these very close relationships with, I think, Mohammed bin Salman. So that's some obvious corruption going on there. And look, he hasn't divested himself from his businesses, and neither has President Trump, by the way. So you want to talk about corruption. The White House isn't talking about this corruption. They're not talking about Jared Kushner at all. So why is it that they would suddenly home in on Shokin's corruption? It's because they wanted to eliminate him. Look, only when the administration wants to eliminate somebody do they go after the corruption. Oh, look at that. He's misusing taxpayer funds. And he was also in the way. Look, if they want to go after corruption, you've got Betsy DeVos, you've got Ben Carson, which, by the way, I think Ben Carson will be the next one who's going to be fired. But I'm not entirely sure on that, but that's my guess, based on some of the previous reports. There's an entire swamp of people that President Trump put into office that have got to go, that are super, super corrupt. No, this is not about the corruption. This is about, hey, I want to privatize the VA for my buddies. This is a political favor for my friends in corporate America who stand to make billions of dollars in government contracts. That's what this is about. Now, Shokin continues. He says, quote, "These individuals who seek to privatize veteran health care as an alternative to government-run VA care unfortunately fail to engage in realistic plans regarding who will care for the more than 9 million veterans who rely on the Department for Life-Sustaining Care. Privatization leading to the dismantling," and this is the final thing, privatization leading to the dismantling of the department's extensive health care system is a terrible idea. And I couldn't agree more. And there are many people also who agree, for example, Bernie Sanders. Now, Senator Sanders has been talking about this ever since the rumors of Shokin's firing or that he was going to get fired started floating around. In fact, on Sunday, he tweeted, "The struggle at the Veterans Administration is about Trump's desire to privatize the VA and his belief that Secretary David Shokin is not moving fast enough in that direction." Now, he also said the veterans organizations representing millions of those who put their lives on the line to defend us want us to strengthen the VA, not dismember it. The Senate Veterans Committee, on which I serve, must stand with the veterans of our country and oppose all efforts to privatize the VA. And following Wednesday's announcement of Shokin being out, Sanders also tweeted, quote, "Every major veterans organization in this country vigorously opposes the privatization of the VA. I stand with them. The Veterans Affairs Committee should not approve any nominee for secretary who supports the privatization of the VA." So, look, does the VA have problems? Yeah. And look, who would know best? Bernie Sanders, who was on the Veterans Committee and has actually been trying to fix this issue. And look, he's also trying to secure more funding, of course, to try to reduce some of those dismal wait times. Again, this is a agency that needs a lot of help. But fixing it doesn't mean handing it over to private corporations who will end up profiting off the troops. Now, there's a problem with that. whenever you put a profit motive, now in this case, a profit motive into veterans' healthcare. But wait, in order to continue that profit stream, wouldn't you need to create more veterans? Well, the best way to create more veterans is for more war, which will again create another perverse incentive for politicians who will now be lobbied by these healthcare companies to start more wars. Wonderful. That is the ultimate goal here. More profit at any expense. Hey man, look, if our veterans don't get the kind of care that they need, sad. If we start more wars to create more veterans so we can create another profit stream, sad day. Sad day for the people, not only who will be sent off to those wars, but to the countries that we will tear apart in doing these wars. So that's what's going on. Make no mistake, Shokin's exit wasn't about ethics. It was to continue, or I should say, to begin the breaking apart of the VA, another government agency, to sell it to private corporations. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.